Kari Lake has won the GOP primary in Arizona, but that is where the good news basically ends for her. And I don't just mean in today's news cycle, I mean potentially for the rest of this cycle and for the rest of her career, such as it is. As AZ Central reports, for Lake, she needed to win 60% of the vote to show that she can unify Republicans in a way that she was unable to do in 2022 when she lost the governor's race to Democrat Katie Hobbs. If Mark Lamb, the other candidate, gets 35 to maybe 40% of the vote, that's a huge problem for Lake, okay? That was said before the polls closed. Well, the polls have closed and Mark Lamb got 39% of the vote. So he got at the high end of that range. Lake got 55%, full 5 points less than they said they thought she needed. Now, look, these are strategists. This is their opinion or whatever, but there is something to this. Kari Lake won the primary last time around. But she was not, even in a cycle where in theory some Republicans were winning, she wasn't able to break through because of the lack of interest that a lot of Republicans had in her, that a lot of independents had in her, and the fact that she so closely cloaked herself in all of the insane grievances and attacks of Donald Trump that she fired up Democrats to come out to vote against her.
A storm is tearing up the digital media industry. Only our audience can save us in these difficult times. Help us reach our goal of 100,000 new members at tyt.com/team.
All of that still very much seems to be the case, and you can see it reflected in the polling. Okay, so if you take a look at the last few weeks, the last, we'll say, 1 month basically of polling, they were even. Ruben Gallego and Lake were even a month ago. Pretty narrowly, like Lake was up by 1. Now that was a poll that she had actually sponsored, that she was up by 1, which is not where you want it to be when you're the one paying for it. But then Gallego was up by 3. And then we have the most recent poll where he's up by, the numbers are very small there, but it looks like 4%. So this is an area where, remember, Joe Biden won the race there by like 10,000 votes or some other really narrow margin. She should be running this thing up. But she can't do the numbers of a generic Republican because she's not a generic Republican. She's a Marjorie Greene, she's a Lauren Boebert. She's a person that spends way more time hanging out in Mar-a-Lago than she does hanging out in Arizona. And people get it. And not just Arizona Democrats, Arizona Republicans, they're not necessarily as MAGA as like a Texas Republican, as a Florida Republican. That's why they've never really embraced her the way she clearly seems to think she's entitled to. And by the way, like, they're not huge fans of her necessarily. Even Donald Trump is kind of tiring of her BS. So this is a comment from Meredith McGraw of Politico. So writing in Trump in Exile, Lake's commitment to talking about fraud in the 2020 election would make even Trump laugh at times. According to McGraw, Trump told other Republicans seeking his endorsement, they should be more like Lake. It doesn't matter what you ask Kari Lake about. How's your family? She's like, the family's fine, but they're never gonna be great until we have free and fair elections. Like, he sees her as a joke. And like, sure, maybe he likes that. Remember, she wasn't even on the short list for VP or whatever, but he sees her as just a tool to like just say the lines that he gave her. He knows deep down that she lost legitimately in the same way that he knows that he lost legitimately in 2020. And he might even endorse her or whatever, but remember what happened in the last cycle. He chose so many Senate candidates for the Republicans. And other than JD Vance, how did that work out for them? How did that work out for them when we hadn't gone through 2 years of Donald Trump's legal troubles, 2 more years of his mental decline, and now having Kamala Harris firing up the Democrats? This is not a recipe for success for the Republican Party in general, and it damn sure doesn't seem to be a recipe for success for Kari Lake in Arizona. Thanks for watching our video. Did you know that you can support our show by becoming a subscriber? Just click the subscribe button and also ring the bell so that you get notifications when we're live or when we post new content.